you just see the compound effect of it. And this is why I'm telling you right now this morning, compound choices are the eighth wonder of the success world. Because the same choice you make between day 1 and day 2 is exactly the same simple, small, easy choice at day 30 to day 31. But the outcome of those choices are dramatically different. Let me give you a for instance. He's going to munch on a little junk food at the office. You know, like a half a handful of chocolate-covered peanut M&Ms. That's it. He's going to miss a couple of workouts a week. He's going to drink more Diet Coke than water. Not good. He's going to move around a little less because he's sitting behind a computer all day. He's going to skip a prospecting call or two. And he's going to give the cold shoulder to the spouse a couple of times throughout the week. No big deal. Nothing dramatic, right? This is not going to be a Jerry Springer episode. Just a cold shoulder every once in a while. So now if we take these three friends and these three different behaviors and we chart it out, 5 months down the road, these three friends look exactly the same. 10 months down the road, exactly the same. So now Scott's thinking, what's going on? I'm getting up every morning and reading this book and I'm listening to these CDs and I'm doing this date night thing with my wife every week. And my buddies are just sloughing off and we have exactly the same results. You can see why people get frustrated and start giving up because they think it's not working. But let's just say he proceeds a little bit further. 20 months down the road, slight differences, right? Brad's starting to feel it in the belt a little bit, right? You really can't tell, but he can feel it in the belt. At the office, tension and anxiety start to set in. At home, apathy. Now the neighbors and friends, they don't really see it, but it started to set in. It's not until 27 months later that the differences between these three friends are dramatic. Let me show you. So Scott, here's what's happened to Scott 27 months later. He's read 47 books. Now you know that the average college graduate does not read 3 books the rest of their life. And he's read 47 books the last 27 months on success and achievement, 465 hours. Bombarding his mind with success and achievement. Is that going to make a difference to his attitude, to his mindset, to his results? Dramatic. The 125 calories he cut out of his diet meant that he lost 33.5 pounds. Do you realize that we can end obesity in the world if everybody just cut 125 calories off their base diet over time? He drank 3,700 gallons of water. Those 2,000 extra steps a day meant he walked 900 miles the last 27 months, losing another 30 pounds. And those date nights with his wife, that got pretty exciting, okay? I had photos, but I decided to just show you the X's and O's. The couple extra calls that he made each workday meant that he made 1,860 extra calls that he wouldn't have made otherwise. If he closed 3% of those, which means he didn't learn anything from those books or audios, he added on top of his previous $50,000 a year income an additional $279,000. And you know what Brad and Larry are saying? Oh, you're just lucky. So here's what Larry is doing. Larry's like most people in the Western world. They're treading water, falling a little bit further behind, becoming disenchanted, bored, apathetic, passionless, disengaged, and then they're blaming the government, right? Here's what Brad's small, simple, poor choices did to him. That 125 calories he added to his diet meant that he put on 33.5 pounds. Missed a couple of workouts, the Diet Coke, now he's in heart attack danger. Missed a few meetings, made a few less calls. He's about to be fired from his job and lose his home. The inattention and cold shoulder to his spouse means that apathy set in and he's on the brink of divorce. You see, small, seemingly insignificant, positive choices create extraordinary results. Small, poor choices over time create devastating results. By the way, if you want a copy of these slides, here's what you do, okay? And for the leaders that we talked to on Friday, I gave you some wrong instructions. So, by the way, everybody else here, if you text in, you can get the leadership talk that I did on Friday too, by the way. You can get an entire audio recording of that. So you just take that phone number, and in the message you have to put EU, comma, your name, comma, your email address, okay? And then it will email you a link where all this is provided for you so that I can help you get this into your brain, your conscious, and into your organization so that we can help you achieve the kind of goals that you're interested in, okay? So there's the number to use. Please do it within 48 hours because then the page is taken down. Great. And if you didn't get the number, it's over here in the corner, okay? So now if all of this seems rather easy, why is it that people still fail and still make poor choices? Well, here's what I want to warn you of. There's 4 traps that you will face. Outside of this conference hall, these traps are on the ground. At home, these traps are on the ground. At the office, at the shopping center, these traps are on the ground. So I want to point them out to you so that you can go, whoa, I got to step around that. Because people with good intention step into these traps and then they get derailed and then they wonder why they end up with no results and so frustrated. So here's the first one. At the moment that you're making a choice, the consequences, the outcomes, or the results are invisible. It doesn't look like it's having any impact whatsoever. So you can get faked out. But I promise you, I could change your choices like that if I had the power to take the space-time continuum and collapse it. Meaning, if you made a choice right now, and I took the space-time continuum of that choice 15, 20 years out, and I collapsed it and showed you exactly what the outcome was, I promise you'd make a different choice. For instance, let's say at lunch, you did pick the hamburger and fries. And upon the first bite, your chest explodes and you drop to the ground in a heart attack. You'd probably lose the taste of hamburger really, really quickly. Or let's say the next morning you woke up like this. Yeah, whoa. How do you get like that? How do you get like that? One bite at a time. Simple as that. Or let's just say, you're out with your girlfriends. You didn't smoke, but they're encouraging you, like, have a smoke. And you try it, and you're like, put it down. That doesn't seem so bad. I don't know what everybody's talking about. But the next morning you woke up like this. You probably wouldn't take another cigarette. Or let's just say, you're a young kid and you try your first cigarette, you're behind the school, feeling like a rebel. Your friends are going, wow, you're cool, right? Looks like a young James Dean. But let's say I could take the space-time continuum of 20, 30, 40 years, and I could take your future self to talk to your current self about that choice. What would you say? Don't smoke another cigarette. But see, for decades, for years and years and years, it didn't look like anything was happening. It didn't look like anything was happening. And it wasn't until the last 4 or 5 years when the dramatic outcome of those choices made itself known. Or let's just say, you promised your sponsor, your upline, that you're going to make 3 calls. You're going to talk to 3 people every day about the ACN opportunity, okay? But today you got a headache. You got to make dinner. You got to pick up the laundry. Maybe I'll make them tomorrow instead of today. And I take the continuum of that choice and I collapse it. And we call Donald Trump and you become fired. You're out of ACN. Your house goes up on the chopping block and you're under bankruptcy. That's what the continuum of that single choice looks like over time. Or let's just say, you promised your spouse that you'd never go to bed angry. But tonight you're like, I just don't want to deal with this tonight. We'll talk about it in the morning. And you go and sleep in the guest bedroom. And I show you what that single choice looks like. And the next morning, you wake up to divorce papers. And you got to look your little girl in the eye and explain why you couldn't make a different choice. You see, every single one of these choices has what you can also call a butterfly effect. Y'all heard of the butterfly effect? Butterfly flaps its wings one part of the planet, and on the other side of the planet, there's a tsunami. This is what I'm telling you. One little itty bitty choice over here, 10, 15 years later, and there's a tsunami in your life. Either positive or negative. So what do you do about this? Okay, what do you do about each of these positive choices you're now going to take? Well, the first thing you need to do is to just have patience. Even though you don't see the results in the moment, you have to know that the compound effect has been ignited. And every choice you make ignites it and fuels it. And it will stretch itself out over 10, 15, 20 years before it reveals its results to you. Second trap. When you start to change the trajectory of your life, that change is subtle and very, very deceptive. For instance, let's say that you're on a plane in Los Angeles, California, and that plane is headed towards LaGuardia Airport in New York. And while that plane is on the tarmac, its nose is pointed directly at LaGuardia. If the nose of that plane is off by only 1 degree, let me show you how far 1 degree is. From here to here. Did you see that? From here to here. In other words, not much. By the time that plane, 1 degree off, flies across the United States, it'll be 150 miles or 240 kilometers off its intended target, 2 states away. So here's what happens, okay? Here's what happens in people's lives. They're one day going along. 10, 15, 20 years down the road, they end up looking at themselves in the mirror going, what happened? How did I get so fat? How did I end up divorced? This is the person I said was the love of my life. How did I end up estranged from the people I said were most important to me in my life? Look, here's the reality. You might not have done anything really bad. You might have only been 1 degree off. And that 1 degree traveled over 10, 15, 20 years, and now you're 150 miles or 240 kilometers off your intended target. So what do you do about this? Well, a plane has what's called a gyroscope in the nose. So it keeps itself on track. So no matter what happens, weather, traffic, it's redirected, the computer keeps locking on to its intended target. So it can fly all the way across the country and then hit the exact runway it wants to over on the other side of the continent because it has a gyroscope. So I'm going to show you a gyroscope you can use for your life before we finish up here. But I have to warn you, life on the ground looks a little bit more like this. Standing atop a double black diamond ski run. And let's say the goal at the bottom of the hill is a comfy chair, warm fire, and a cup of hot cocoa, okay? And if you just run right at it, what's going to happen? Yeah, it's going to get ugly, right? So what happens is you start off, and then you get hit by a mogul. And the mogul just pushes you over in this direction. Now, a lot of people end up just skiing off the mountain, right? Instead, you have to adjust. And you ski a little bit, and you get hit by another mogul. And you're like, I see my goal, I have to adjust. And you'll notice, if you look at the line from the top to the bottom, you'll notice that you are off track more than you're on track. So what I'm telling you is, you will be off track often. But the key is what? Get back on track. And the more time you spend off track, you'll spend more time coming back to the track. The difference between how long it takes for you to get from the top to the bottom will depend on how much time you spend off track. So the key is to get back on track. Here's the third trap, immediate gratification. And as a Western civilization, we are addicted to immediate gratification. We're trying to pleasure ourselves at every single moment. So let's say at the end of a nice meal, you're presented with a choice. Grandma's warm chocolate cake or a glass of water. What are you going to choose? Well, what do you get if you choose the chocolate cake? Joy. You get joy. You get like this oral sensation of epic proportion. That's what you get. What do you get if you choose the glass of water?